Yashomati Nandana Braja Baronagaro Gokula Ranjana Kala. Yashomati Nandana Braja Baronagaro Ranjana Kala. Gopi Parana Dana Madana Manohara Gopi Parana. I don't think enough of you know this. Yeah, but that's two of you. And she's absorbed in her Mridanga ing. Okay, let's do it in here. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribara Dari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Giribara Dari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodana Dana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Anyway, I'm going to do something simple. Okay. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadesatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jayam Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtatarasata Shishimala Bhacharana Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Iskhan Guru Vrinda ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Hari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Kamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki Vrajabhumi Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki Ganga Mai ki Yamuna Mai ki Bhakti Devi ki Tulsi Devi ki Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'm reading from this book called Srila Prabhupada is coming by my god sister Mahamaya Devi Dasi. And Mahamaya is an expansion of Yoga Maya. So Prabhupada gave the example of Yoga Maya about Lord Chaitanya. He says, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. The tears are flowing. Anyway, Yoga Maya, Maya means that which is not. So people who are in Yoga Maya, they're with Krishna, but they don't know he's God. And those who are in Mahamaya are the material energy. They're identifying this material body and forgetting their eternal relationship with Krishna. So gradually, we are going to go through this book, which isn't too long. So Mahamaya is from someplace, New York, I think. New York State. Anyway, she's talking about, the chapter 1 is called Growing Up Without Krishna. She came from a Jewish family. He said, but her family wasn't very religious. And then they used to have a Christmas tree. They said one year they decided they were going to follow Hanukkah, which is some kind of I'm not even sure what it is. It's a Jewish thing it's a Jewish festival about the same time. Do you know what Hanukkah is? Yeah, they have, the 7 candles. So, but she said they didn't like it and they brought back the Christmas tree. Actually, the whole Christmas thing, it happened in the northern hemisphere. It's about when you have the winter solstice, which is the longest night and the shortest day, and it gets very depressing. And the Romans had one festival called Saturnalia, and they started that. They really don't know. I mean, it's nice to observe the appearance of Jesus, but they don't know when. He couldn't have been that time because it says that the shepherds were in the fields with the sheep. And at that time of year, in the middle of winter, they wouldn't have been out in the fields with the sheep. Anyway, that's another thing. So they're kind of like a secular Jew. She comes from a secular Jewish family. Both my father and my mother, Peggy, were editors and authors. Although my father usually used a pen name as the American editor of the Guinness Book of Records, he used his real name. Books were everywhere at home, and I read constantly the current bestsellers and whatever else I got my hands on. Sometimes my father gave me the manuscripts of children's books to read, and he asked my opinion whether or not to publish them. I would read galleys, the long strips of typeset paper that are almost ready for printing. Even as a young girl, I worked during school vacations at my father's office in New York City, proofreading with the staff, stuffing envelopes, or typing invoices. By 12, I had taught myself to type on the manual typewriter in my father's home office. I was raised on small doses of television because my parents didn't own a TV until I was 8. Before that, we neighborhood kids used to gather at one family's home at 6 p.m. without fail to watch Superman. And on Saturday mornings for the animal story, My Friend Flicka. It's about a horse. Once we had our own television, our family weekly shows included Father Knows Best, The Legal Adventures of Perry Mason, and the quiz show, The $64,000 Question. See, I know where that term came from. People say, well, that's the $64,000 question. Or sometimes they say, that's the $1 million question, but it comes from that TV show. It was a quiz show. In other words, you get higher and higher. And sorry, I'm getting off on a tangent. That's where that comes from. The highlights of my childhood were the 3 summers I stayed at a camp called Blueberry Cove in Maine. So Maine is up the coast from New York, and Maine is bordering Canada. Children from many different backgrounds and ethnic groups came to the camp, the antithesis of a Jewish camp I later attended and hated. The same summer as Diana's wedding, my parents took Lincoln and I to Europe on one of our semi-annual business and pleasure trips. We toured England and Scotland in a rented car, flew to the Scandinavian countries, and also drove through Germany, Holland, and France. At 14, I spent a summer at a traveling camp that went through Mexico, Arizona, and New Mexico. The camp leaders were a minister in the Dutch Orthodox Church and his wife. While traveling in the car, we would discuss the nature of life, and by the end of the summer, I believed in reincarnation. I don't know where they got that from, but one day when I was in high school, radio news got flashed onto all the classrooms. Someone shot President Kennedy, and he had been rushed to a hospital. School was dismissed early, so I ran home and I turned on the television. Soon I learned that he was dead. That gruesome weekend, Americans didn't budge from the television. I wasn't interested in politics, but Kennedy represented brilliance, vigor, youth, and hope. I identified with him because, being Catholic, he was in a religious minority. His assassination seemed to end a promising era in America. My maternal grandparents were very much part of our family. They lived in New York City for most of my childhood, except for a few years when they lived on the 3rd floor of our large house in White Plains. That's a town in New York State. They returned to the same West 71st Street block between Broadway and Columbus near Grandma's 2 sisters. I was close to Aunt Nora, one of my great aunts, whom I affectionately nicknamed Lolo. In school, I liked logic and math. I was quite athletic and excelled in every sport, even though I'm only 5 feet tall. I'm 5'8", so I don't know how that works out in metric. There's only 3 countries that follow the imperial system now. United States, Liberia, and Burma. Was it? Only 3 countries still do that. Everybody else follows the metric system. which is more logical. But so he's 5'8", and I'm 5'8", so she was 5 feet tall. Not too tall, so that would be 8, this much less than me, but up to my nose. I became a cheerleader in my last year of high school, hankering to be popular. I suffered because I rarely went to parties or dated. I joined a club for teenagers at our local YMCA. YMCA means Young Men's Christian Association. But then there's the YWCA, Young Women's Christian, and then they have one for Jews too. So my club, the M&Ms, chose me to represent them in a statewide lawmaking contest. We had to come up with a beneficial state law. Another girl came up with a great idea. The current law requiring 1 year of residence in New York to vote needed to be eliminated for voting in national elections. I wrote and presented the new bill to the other clubs at the YMCA and won the local competition. Therefore, I represented White Plains in the county contest, which I also won. Then, representing Westchester County, I was sent to Albany, the state capital, for a mock session of state Congress with kids representing every county. We kids, pretending to be lawmakers, used the actual Senate hall for our meetings. A bill book was prepared, including only the best bills, and I was shocked to see my bill was number 2. I nervously read my presentation to the large mock Senate of kids, and the bill passed unanimously. Later, I learned that an almost identical bill was in the works in the state Senate and also passed there. Our local White Plains newspaper carried the story of these events, but I was chagrined to see my name. I was chagrined, means I was unhappy, not to see my name mentioned. Soon after, another achievement of mine also went unacknowledged. My name and role were admitted on the printed program for our senior class skit. I wondered, why am I not getting recognized for the good things I've done? In 1964, I graduated from high school as an honors student, and I was pleased to finally receive some recognition for my intelligence by scoring in the 99th plus percentile on both mathematics and English composition tests in a national competition, the Scholastic Achievement Test, SAT. All my life, my family had expected me to go to college. That's what everyone did. In America, everyone says college. College preaching, it means university. But I had no sure goals, no fixed ideas, what to do with my life. Having worked hard for good grades in high school, I was tired of studying, so I chose the University of Massachusetts, UMass, because I had heard it was an easy school for out-of-state students. I mainly wanted to get away from my parents and have fun. Sure enough, it was easy. The first year was just a repeat of my final year in high school. but it wasn't as much fun as I expected. The first semester I majored in psychology for the same reason that many others did. I thought I was going crazy and I wanted to know why. But there were no pat answers. It was all too wishy-washy. Therefore, I switched to elementary education, emulating my sister Diana. I'm going to carry on. Chapter 2, Going Beyond the Establishment. The memorable month of September, Sri Sri Radha Radhanath, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Giri Govardhan, Srimati Tulsi Maharani, Srila Prabhupada, Ki. The memorable month of September 1965. So Srila Prabhupada arrived in the USA, in New York City, in 1965, and he established ISKCON in 66. The memorable month of September 1965. My parents